Tonight on Haunted Homes, we visit a house in Wolverhampton whose inhabitants claim to be terrified of spirits that haunt the corridors.
It literally sounded like there was children there, really, really close to me.
Just petrified that the fact that I could believe, and I was so vivid and sure that there was somebody running around the building with me.
We'll send in the Haunted Homes expert team. Paranormal investigator Mark Webb, Professor of Psychology Chris French, and psychic Mia Dolan.
A very young child or baby's died in this property.
Their task is to uncover the mysterious disturbances, and if Mia finds a ghost, she'll expel it from the house in a clearing ceremony.
Oh God, what was that? That was from down there.
I'm shaking like a bird. What's the camera shaking? This is not good.
The returning dead are regarded by some believers as frightening and demonic. With 50% of Britons believing in an afterlife, perhaps you've even experienced something supernatural. Tonight, we investigate Normanhurst House, said to be a children's orphanage that was converted 30 years ago into a local radio station. People working there are convinced they've witnessed apparitions of children playing and ghostly shadows. The first member of the Haunted Homes team we'll send in to investigate is Mia Dolan, one of Britain's leading psychics.
A psychic just means that I cover different areas in the paranormal. When I'm working as a medium, it means I'm working directly with spirit. I speak to ghosts. I speak to dead people. Even in death we have choice. And some people choose not to go over when they die, because they are so connected to their material possessions and what they think is theirs by right. Even in a house where you've got one person who really doesn't believe in all that stuff, but they can't explain what's going on, they're still very pleased to see you.
Tonight's case for investigation is Normanhurst House, a Victorian mansion where the ghosts of children are said to roam the corridors.
The original building was, I believe, is like an orphanage or a home for children. There's a real horrible room upstairs which has a horrible calm to it. They call it the chapel, and they say that's where they laid out the children who died here. They put them to rest until they could be, buried.
The staff have witnessed strange events in the building.
The temperature can change in a room really quickly for no reason.
People have also said that they felt that there's been someone with them, but when they've looked there hasn't been.
Lights been switched on behind locked doors.
On the main staircase you do get this horrible unbalanced feeling.
There were rumours of people getting pushed.
Quite a few members of staff over the years actually have fallen down the stairs.
Julia, one of the station's journalists, was a new recruit when she had her first terrifying experience.
At the time I didn't know anything about the rumours of ghosts here, and I never really knew at the time whether or not I believed in ghosts.
Julia was alone in the building when the unexplained happened.
I was the first person into the building, and I'd unlocked the doors and came into reception. And when I took the alarm off, I could hear, like children. It got louder, obviously, as I got nearer to where it was coming from. But I couldn't see anything. But it literally sounded like there was children there, really, really close to me. So then I was panicked, ran into the newsroom, put on all the lights, opened all the curtains, and just waited for the presenter to come in.
Most reports of paranormal activity happen at night when the station is running on a skeleton staff.
I've worked quite a lot here on my own at night, and it's not something I'm fond of doing. It's kind of a call of the radio station that you do need to be here at odd times at night.
John Wire is one of the station's DJs and has worked in the building for the past 10 years.
My dad used to work here. I was about 8 when he started working here, and there's all sorts of stories going around, like, oh, there's a caretaker, or sometimes there's some Victorian children upstairs singing nursery rhymes and stuff, and I don't know if I believed it or not.
John became more convinced of paranormal activity when he started experiencing it for himself.
It's about a year or so ago. I was staying late on a Friday, and I needed to do a lot of work for the weekend, and I was asking a colleague to come back in and help me, and he said, I'll be there in an hour, I'm just stuck in some traffic, I'm in Birmingham at the moment. About an hour's time I heard the front door. There's somebody walking through reception, running up the stairs, open all the doors, and I thought, right, he's here now, let's get cracking, and he didn't actually come through my door.
He searched throughout the building for his colleague.
In the end I thought, I can't find him, just find him by giving him a call. So I picked up my phone and I said, Chris, where are you? And he said, I'm still in Birmingham, mate, I'm running really late. And I was like, you're still in Birmingham, but I've just heard you come through the front door and run upstairs. He goes, no, that's not me.
No one else was there.
And I was just petrified, that the fact that I could believe, and I was so vivid and sure that there was somebody running around the building with me.
You can download the single already.
DJ Andy Swift began working in the building 20 years ago.
When I first started here, a few things would happen occasionally and you'd dismiss them until I actually physically saw something one night.
Andy was doing the graveyard shift, and apart from the security guard, he was alone in the building.
It would have been about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was on air, and I was turned away from, with my back to the wall, working, and I turned and put my headphones on to speak on the radio. And as I turned, I thought I saw the shoulder of somebody walk past me. I just presumed it was the security guard who had popped up from reception. So I carried on, I did my link, took my headphones off, turned around to say hello to him, and he wasn't there. There was nobody in the studio.
Andy was convinced someone had walked past him and contacted the security guard in reception.
When I said, have you been to the studio in the last 10 minutes? He went, no, I've been sat on reception. My immediate reaction after I found out it wasn't him was panic. He actually stayed with me for the rest of the show. I wouldn't be left alone.
The staff believe the problem is intensifying and are worried about what might happen next.
When I'm working here on my own, it does make me worried. I do wonder if something's going to happen now, whereas before I didn't have that. You know, it's only a matter of time something else could happen again.
In an attempt to get hard evidence, we gave John, Andy and Julia a video camera. They spent the night alone in Normanhurst House. Julia and Andy begin the night's proceedings.
Right, and there's just one last light to switch off, which is the lights underneath here. Right, we are completely in the dark. Where are you, Julia? Don't leave me. Right.
They settle on the landing, in the place where they believe they have heard children in the past.
We've definitely switched the lights off, haven't we? Up here.
Yeah.
Okay. Those lights under a door there.
We found that one of the lights in the chapel was back on and we'd switched it off, and I watched Andy turn it off myself, and we both were quite scared at that point.
I'm so cold.
Can you see that?
What can you see?
Something just moved. There's a crack in the curtain and something just moved past it. We'd seen what looked like a shadow first of all go past the window and then go past the top of the stairs. It was just, yeah, it was
shadow.
Just a shadow just went over the...
Did you see that?
I did see that.
I don't think we're alone, you know.
I don't think we should go that way.
Did you hear like a bell go ding?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh God, what was that? That was from down there. Did you hear that?
Staff at Normanhurst House, said to be a former orphanage and now the home of Beacon Radio, claim to have seen the ghosts of children and a menacing shadow haunting the building. Scared and at their wits' end, they're determined to find out if their workplace is being disturbed by something that perhaps is paranormal.
I've spent quite a lot of time trying to make it rational in my head, but I've given up on that now, and I just think it's straight weird.
It's one of those things where if I know what it is, I'll be okay, but it's because I don't know what it is, that's why I'm afraid.
Their fears were even captured on a video diary, which they filmed by themselves one night.
Is there anybody here?
Andy tries to make contact with the spirit, much to John's disapproval.
Make contact with us? Any spirit people? Any spirit children?
Oh my.
Okay, we thought we...
Just said like a sneeze noise.
Where was it?
It's around the corner.
Okay.
Somebody went at you.
Are there any...
Shit, that's the Ring of Roses thing. And I thought maybe this sneezing noise was to do with the Victorian nursery rhyme they hear with the Ring of Roses, and it just scared me to death.
What's the matter, John?
When you said...
Oh.
Don't stop it. Shit. Heard it again.
Okay. We've both heard a door being pushed open somewhere.
And it's like a...
No, I heard a door being pushed open, John.
When you were calling out people, they weren't responding to... I don't mean to say it, they weren't responding.
Okay,
Can we turn the lights on?
No. We've had no response from anything until we said children. And then we heard a door go.
Every time you said it, I heard a little noise.
Yeah. And that's when things happen. I'm shaking like the camera. The camera's shaking. This is not good.
In the end, we just called it a night because I'd heard something too definite more than once, and I couldn't explain it, and I needed to go home.
This video experiment terrified all those taking part. Andy and his two work colleagues, John and Julia, have now decided to call in the Haunted Homes investigation team to help them solve the mystery and discover if they really do have a ghost. Coming to the rescue are Chris French, a professor of psychology at Goldsmith University, paranormal investigator Mark Webb, and psychic Mia Dolan. Mia is the first to arrive in Wolverhampton, one day before the rest of the team. She will examine objects from the house in a practice called psychometry.
Psychometry is really amazing because you can get ordinary, everyday objects, and they haven't got to be particularly old. They just have to have been in the house or in a room for a length of time. And from that, you can actually pick up information.
Mia examines the light shade from the Chapel of Rest.
And I get a figure, and I'm not sure if it's the outline of a figurine or a statue or a full figure. And I get the word flickering, and I'm not sure if the light flickers or this moves. It's poltergeist activity. An interesting object. I've been looking at this wondering what it is on the table there.
This object was found in the cellar and is believed to have been in the property for many years.
Now my heart rate's just gone up. This is I get the smell of sulphur and heat changes, temperature changes, heat to cold, hot to cold, hot to cold. This has been in like the centre of it. It's been in the room with lots of activity. We've got a shadow. We've got a figure of a shadow. We've got a shadow in a corner. And I can hear laughter. A lot of information. We've got movement, activity, naughtiness, fear, shadows, heat, electricals. We've got the lot.
The following day, Mia arrives at Normanhurst House. Mia has never seen the property before, and apart from the few objects from the psychometry experiment, has no prior information about the case she is to investigate.
Walking up the driveway, it's like this immense house that's sitting there brooding.
She tours the house alone before the other experts arrive in order to get a sense of any paranormal activity without being disturbed.
It's interesting that I normally want to go straight off somewhere, but the door is pulling me back. Something's happened with this door. I reckon the door's rung, the door's been knocked, people come in, there's nothing here. And my heart rate is going like a clock's. It's like so active. I've never had an active entrance. We've got movement down the whole corridor. We've got a ghost that walks down. I can hear laughter, like children's laughter. Footsteps running, laughter, and doors banging. and people coming in and out doors up here. It seems to be coming from over here.
Mia enters the room known as the Chapel of Rest, which the staff believe was used as a holding place for children that had passed away.
I'm drawing up there. That feeling on my throat is getting worse. I see a dead child, a dead baby, a young, very young child or baby has died in this property. It's like a wailing, crying, a wailing.
Disturbed by what she feels in the Chapel of Rest, Mia quickly moves on to another part of the building.
It's a studio. That's interesting. I've never been in a haunted studio. I certainly think the people that have to do the midnight shift, the graveyard shift on this station, have been interfered with. So the person in here the most is going to be sitting on the chair. Different people have thought other people are playing tricks on them here because it's naughty behaviour, it's mischievous. Very, very interesting for the vigil.
Mia has identified paranormal hotspots on the landing, in the office known as the Chapel of Rest, and in one of the studios. Mia is accompanied by our very own paranormal investigator, Mark Webb.
What we do, we go to reputedly haunted locations around the world to try and find some scientific proof of the existence of ghosts. I've never had any doubts that the paranormal exists. I've seen so many things and had so many experiences that you'd never shake my belief in the paranormal. To the skeptics, I would say that one day, coming very soon, I'm going to prove to you that ghosts exist.
Skeptic Chris French, Professor of Psychology, will look for a rational explanation.
I'm a psychologist with a special interest in the psychology of ostensibly paranormal experiences. To convince me that ghosts really did exist, I want to see evidence of some kind of reliable phenomenon where we can measure what's going on. Now, there's no doubt at all that lots of people have strange experiences that they think involve paranormal forces. So the challenge for me as a psychologist is to try to come up with and test alternative explanations for what might be going on.
Mark and Chris tour Normanhurst House to make their own assessment of the activity.
Okay, this is one of two staircases we have here.
John and Andy are keen to show them the landing where most of the activity occurs.
The most recent one was Saturday evening. I heard running across the landing, as if someone was running from one bedroom to another across the landing.
Was that heavy sound or?
No, it's fairly light. It sounded like somebody fairly light on their feet, a child or someone quite lightweight.
John tells Mark and Chris about the reports of the children singing nursery rhymes.
I mean, with these nursery rhymes, can anybody actually identify what the nursery rhyme is?
Yes, it's Ring a Ring a Roses. It's bizarre and it's recurrent, it keeps happening, and it's the same one over the couple of years. We've always heard this story and it's always Ring a Ring a Roses.
The boys are keen to hear Mark and Chris's opinion of the Chapel of Rest.
Now, the area you're heading up to now, as far as we know, this is where they laid the bodies out as part of the Chapel of Rest.
A weird thing's happened in the last couple of nights where the radiators come on twice and we've turned it off with pliers and the next morning it's on full blast again. And there's also a story about the lights were left on.
What's that?
This happened the other night after doing the video diary with John. We switched all the lights off and left, and I got to the end of the drive, turned round, and the lights on the landing had come back on. And that happens all the time.
I mean, I hate to kind of bring up the mundane, but I mean, have you had the wiring checked by an electrician? Has anybody checked that kind of thing out?
There's engineers that work here.
Yeah.
We would need to be in perfect condition to operate as a company, so the electrical stuff is immaculate, and that's the weird thing.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Okay. It's interesting. There's obviously, from a social psychological point of view, there's some interesting stuff going on here. Whether or not there's anything paranormal happening, well, I'm not convinced.
Probably the most interesting to me, and possibly the one that we may be able to capture, is the singing and footsteps on the landing area. I'm going to set up some recording equipment there, see if we can capture what's known as electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, see if we can capture any of those sounds that they report that they've heard.
Now that the experts have completed their examination of Normanhurst House, Mia can finally meet the staff to discuss her findings.
So from here, I've then gone up the stairs. And as I walked up the stairs, my heart rate started to go up more and more. I got onto the landing and stopped. And when I was on the landing, I could hear laughter, but like high laughter, like cackly high laughter. And then like footsteps running, doors going.
Mia's experiences in the house have led her to one conclusion.
This is what you've got here is poltergeist. But poltergeist means a description of activity. And they move things, normally small objects, and put them in bizarre places quite often. They'll stack things, they move things, they interfere with electrics.
Yeah, we've had the lights turn on and they've been in locked doors.
Yeah.
So people have to go in, unlock the door, and then turn the light off, thinking, I've already locked this door and turned off the light. And it's kind of it's slightly playful, slightly eerie.
You see, they are energy. They are pure energy. And electrical currents are energy. And they just break, they either break it or they pulse it with their energy. And so it's a really easy thing for them to do, and quite dramatic.
Can you tell us more about the high cackle?
Made me think of Child, but the tone was wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Children don't, it was like a menacing laugh. But
It's
it was
like a
high.
child's mentality, but it's kind of grown up.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it, yes.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel it, because it's like, it's childish in its games and stuff, but it does have a real sinister edge.
Is there more than one spirit here, do you think, or is it the
probably
same
not.
ones moving around?
Probably not, because it is, first it's quite rare to have a ghost. So many people think they've got hauntings, and out of every 100, maybe 5 or 6 have.
Yeah.
But you really have got a haunting. It's not happy, don't know if it's evil, but it's not nice, is a good way of putting it.
I can't wait for someone else to get here when I'm in here first. I just sit at my desk thinking, please someone else arrive.
It's live. And what's happening is it's getting stronger. So you would have noticed over the last year, 18 months, that it's picking up. It feeds, these situations feed on fear and attention.
The staff feel reassured now that Mia says that she has experienced some of the same activity.
When I first heard what Mia had to say, I was surprised. When she spoke about hearing high voices at the top of the stairs, it did make me feel a bit ill, actually.
But she was spot on with the running across the landing and the high-pitched cackling, and that was spot on, amazingly.
Tonight, psychic Mia Dolan, skeptic Professor Chris French, and paranormal investigator Mark Webb will conduct a night-long vigil with Andy, John and Julia that will last until daybreak. Their aim will be to discover precisely what has frightened staff at Normanhurst House, and to see if there's any rational explanation for the supposedly supernatural activity. Our cameras will be filming throughout the experiment. The 3 experts discuss their expectations of the evening.
Well, I'm really excited about tonight. I think that this house is probably the best that we've come across.
Mia and Mark are looking forward to an eventful vigil.
I'm just interested to find out what's really excited you about the house.
The landing upstairs, I got so confused with all this different information. I didn't know which area to go to. And that was also, that's been confirmed, that's like a hotspot. So I think we should really do something there. And the room, you know the room with the weird balcony area you go in?
Yes.
Definitely. So they're my exciting ones. The studio, I walked into one room, it's a recording studio, it's a radio studio. I didn't know I was going into it, but it's, I know they've had activity there. And I know you're all going to say it's because they're late at night and they're bored and their minds are wandering. But it was
occurred to me.
Yes, but it really struck me, and I think that from my point of view, it's because when they're on their own, it's attracted to them because they are the only people there. So that's the areas I'm interested in.
Chris, although sceptical, is prepared to see if they can come up with something to convince him otherwise.
But like you say, you know, they're working there late, they're tired. People do see things and hear things that aren't there. What will impress me is if we could actually get some, you know, hard evidence. So, I mean, what are you going to focus on tonight, Mark?
I think it's really going to be a case of EVP, audio, try and pick some of the audio up.
Is that the same as like that white sound, that they call white noise?
That's the one, yes. So I've got some mini disc recorders. I thought maybe it's interesting that you mentioned it, the upper landing. where a lot of the noises are heard. I think we should have one there. And a lot of the sounds have been heard from downstairs, so I think if we rig one up downstairs, one upstairs, so if anything is heard, we can obviously see if it's been picked up in both areas.
What I'll be interested in during the vigil is how will people interact? Is it going to be the case that when everybody's sitting around here in the dark, we get this situation where one after the other people are kind of psyching themselves up and getting themselves off into a real state and genuinely frightened, but perhaps over nothing?
In the dead of night, the building is plunged into darkness so that the vigil can begin. Static cameras are set up in the locations where people have reported the most activity, upstairs on the landing and facing the chapel. The team will also investigate the studio on the ground floor. Skeptic Chris is positioned in the Winnebago to observe all the activity on the monitors. Mia, Mark, Julia, John and Andy all make their way upstairs and settle on the landing.
You okay, John?
Yeah, just drawn to the stairs.
Almost immediately, Andy feels something.
Oh,
What's up? What's up?
something just touched my hair.
It's okay, it's okay.
Oh, and it was as if someone was stroking me,
Yeah.
stroking my head. Just a bit tense now.
Okay, relax. It's scary when it first happens.
It felt so real, as if it was like a real person doing it. I felt the touch,
Yeah.
and it was not just being touched, it was being stroked. And there it goes again. That is weird. Exactly the same place.
On your head?
Yeah. Oh, God, I'm freezing cold.
Okay, you okay? It's not going to hurt you, it's just going to frighten you. Relax.
He's really shaking. Don't jelly, Andy.
I'll be right in a second. Just need to relax again.
Mia is worried about Andy and decides it's time to take him away from the landing. As everyone gets up to leave, there is another discovery.
The lights are on down in the back end of the studio.
And you know that they were off?
Oh, we think that the lights were all off, weren't they?
Before we started shooting, I walked round to my car. It was all off.
They were definitely off.
Yeah, top and bottom.
While Mia takes John and Andy into the chapel, Mark and Julia remain on the landing, hoping to experience some paranormal activity.
Right, I'm going to move over this way a bit. You move across because I want you to look down that corridor. And tell me if you can see anything.
I can see plenty lights down there.
Hmm.
Can you see that?
Yeah. It's not what you class as an orb. They're not round lights. They're more shape to them.
At the same time in the chapel, John is experiencing inexplicable temperature changes.
This cold stuff, it's like I keep reaching back to feel the cold patch of air, but it's not. It's just like
Turn back.
along the.
And your back. This is the interesting experiment, right? So turn around your back to him. Feel his back. It's warm, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now feel my back between my shoulders.
Oh yes, you're cold. Quite different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been on my back since we come up.
The activity continues on the landing as Mark and Julia hear a noise.
Mm-hmm. Let's have a look. Do you want to come through? Do you want to stay here? What did you think you heard? It sounded like a sneeze to me. There's certainly no one in here that's made that noise. I know the window's open. And I can't say I've heard traffic while I've been sat out there, so I wouldn't have thought that a sneeze would have carried either. Let's have a look in the other room. Well, No one in here.
I can see something around him.
Can you?
Yeah, like lights coming around. Did you feel the temperature change around you?
Yeah, that's what I was looking. It just seems to be like wrapping it. You know, like it goes round and it.
Just no direction.
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere, and you can't feel where it's gone or where it's coming from. It just seems to go wrap around and just go off.
Both Mark and Julia hear noises on the landing, but in the pitch black, they both presume the other is responsible for making the noise.
Sorry? You?
That was you.
No. I thought it was you moving. All that rustling?
Yeah.
No, it's not me.
You sure?
Yeah. 'Cause I actually thought it was you. That's why I've been looking this way, because I thought it was
It
you.
wasn't me. You sure it wasn't you?
No, no, it's not me.
It's now 3:45 in the morning and time for a change of strategy. This time Julia is to be left alone on the landing to see what happens.
But can they hear me on the mic? They can hear me on the mic.
Grab hold of that, please.
Mia and Andy decide to keep investigating the building, while John and Mark go to the Winnebago to watch Julia on the monitor.
She looking particularly spooked. Is she okay?
I think she's up there on her own, isn't she?
Yes, yeah.
Julia starts hearing noises on the landing. While downstairs in the studio, Andy has discovered more unusual electrical activity.
Those lights were off earlier on. Definitely off. I came down here just to use the bathroom and turn the corridor lights on because it was so dark. The lights in the studio were all off.
Julia is trying to keep calm on the stairs, even though the noises are getting louder and more frequent.
I've got a strong feeling she's upset. Or she's...
At the moment.
Yeah. But I don't know, she's got to be left there on her own.
I think Julia's still seeing those lights down that corridor. They could be quite intimidating if you're there on your own.
But to have your back against that railing bit, that's the worst thing, because it's kind of like that's where all the activity is, and you've got your back to it, and it's like open, so you feel really exposed and vulnerable.
You see the shadow cross over there?
I'm really interested to know how she's getting on upstairs. If we go to Winnebago, we can have a look on the monitor
Okay.
without disturbing her. Okay. Oh yeah, how's she doing? How's she been doing on the monitor?
Looking at her nervous.
Just sneeze then.
She looks very upset.
Mia decides that Julia has braved her stay in the building long enough, and she rushes inside before it gets too much for her.
Some more lights moving down the corridor.
Yeah.
And I saw a shadow over there, and I heard two sneezes. I don't know where they've gone.
Seems to be an awful lot of noise phenomena up here.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping Mark's equipment picks it up. Calendine. That'll be everything.
As the vigil comes to a close, the boys reflect on the night's activity.
A couple of times when I've been touched, I went very cold, and Julia grabbed me and says, "You're shaking," and I was like this because I've never felt as if somebody's touched me before.
I know I'm a psychologist, but the power of suggestion is pretty amazing. I'm wondering how much of it was down to the fact that, I mean, you guys are absolutely exhausted. You've both been working from, first thing this morning, and it's now 4:30 in the morning. It's very hard to know what effect that's going to have on you, obviously.
Everyone is keen to hear what Julia experienced alone on the stairs.
I was scared, yeah, I was scared as I thought it would be, but I kind of was silenced in my fear as well. I don't think I would be so paralysed by it, but I do feel relieved to be out of there because I don't think I could have stood much longer. It was very scary.
What was it you were looking at? Because you were kind of looking over here and then looking over there. I mean, could you actually see stuff, or were you just looking around to see if you could see stuff?
I thought that I was looking at lights down the corridor opposite me, which were darting around. They weren't staying in one place. And then in the door opposite, there was a shadow that moved across, which caught my eye, so I was looking at that as well.
It'll be interesting to see what else, if anything else, we've managed to pick up, either the sound or the lights.
Yeah.
I mean, the sneezes, let's hope to God we got it.
The following day, Mark believes he has recorded conclusive evidence on his equipment.
Having reviewed the mini-discs that were recorded yesterday evening, I've now found the sound of what I believe was a sneeze. At the time, myself and Julia were sat on the landing area, and we too believed that that's what we heard.
In the case of the sneezing, which Mark actually thought he heard himself last night, and he's played that recording back to me, I have to say, to me, it sounds like something that might be a sneeze, but it might be 101 other things as well. And I think this is a general problem with the EVP, the electronic voice phenomenon, that it's very, very easy for people to read into those very, very ambiguous sounds, whatever it is they think they're supposed to be hearing.
Tales of ghosts, poltergeists, and dark phantoms are all very exciting. But what would you do if you believed one had moved in with you? Tonight, Mia says she'll get rid of the Normanhurst House ghost. She says she'll summon up the spirit and send it over to the other side in a clearing ceremony which lasts an intense 20 minutes. But in a dramatic twist, on the evening of the clearing, John mysteriously collapsed, possibly from exhaustion, leaving Andy and Julia to face the alleged ghost alone.
So what we're going to do now, this is the clearing. You may experience stuff, you may not. And whatever happens at the end, it'll be gone. What I'm seeing now is I'm going down the corridor and going towards those back stairs. I'm going down the stairs, but at the bottom I've come into a big area which is looking, it's not the room that's there now. It's like it's a big kitchen. There's a big old table in the middle of the kitchen, and I can see the figure of a man standing on the opposite side, and he looks late 50s, and now he's coming out of the kitchen. Okay, I'm coming quite quickly up the stairs because he's coming quite quickly. Okay, so I'm back here and he's coming in. He looks like he's 50, 60 years ago. And he worked in the kitchen. There were children here. Quite a lot of children. The children aren't haunting this place, the children aren't stuck, but they visit. And he was accused of something to do with the children. He's enraged by this, enraged. He's very, very angry about this. He's looking for something in this building. He's looking for a child. So he's either a child has gone missing, he's lost a child, and he's been accused of it, and he's still looking for the child. I'm seeing images of somebody stabbing with a knife into somebody's chest. I think somebody stabbed him because of the child. Okay, I'm going to send him over. Te profundus clamavi et te Domini exaudi vocem meam, viant oras tuae, intendentus invocium, deprecationis meae, si iniquitus observerus, Domini, quae sustenibi, Quae apud Dominum misericordia et copiosa apud eum redemptio et ipse redimit Israel ex omnibus iniquitibus aegis. Done. Gone.
Once Mia recovers, she tries to make sense of what she says she's learnt in the clearing.
Now, I don't know if the owner who lived here had a lot of kids or if it was used in some way for his children. And I believe that something happened to one of these children and he was blamed for it. And there was some sort of kerfuffle and he got killed. But it was very quickly after being accused of something to do with his children. Yet he's not without blame and he's very angry. He was very angry and it's not pleasant. He wasn't very pleasant about it.
You mentioned the children that come into the building, so we are right to the fact that we've heard children. We were confused last night. You said there was one entity here.
Yeah, but the children are visitors.
They're just
They
popping
come
in every so often.
Yeah, have a play around and go again.
Right.
No danger, no problem, and visitors haven't got the energy to move things, to turn lights on. They can purely be here for a while, then go,
Right.
and it's quite light. Whereas the ghost, the haunting, it gets stronger and stronger and learns how to do things. Over the next couple of days, it will lighten up, lighten up. What's really interesting is the next time you're here at night, on your own, you should feel a lot better.
Well, we've got lots of information from what Mia was saying during the clearing, and I believe me, first thing Monday morning, straight onto the internet, see if we can dig any information up to find out maybe who this gentleman was.
I'm hoping that whoever he was has gone, really, and that we can have finally a peaceful radio station where we can work and not have to worry about him lurking in the building.
During the clearing, Mia claims she actually contacted the ghost of a man called Frederick, wrongly accused of a crime involving a missing child. She's unsure of the precise details. In 2 weeks' time, our cameras will return to Normanhurst House to see if the clearing ceremony was successful and if the ghost of Frederick has moved on.
After Mia left, I think it was an instant effect on the whole building becoming quieter and a little more peaceful.
You do sort of wonder, are you going to hear anything again? And I was sort of creeping around the place for a few days looking out for things, but nothing strange happened.
It's completely different. It's tranquil, it's calm. You don't feel as if there's somebody just lurking around the corner or over your shoulder watching you.
So the atmosphere has changed, but are they still hearing any noises?
I mean, I did worry that I might still hear some of the children because obviously she wasn't able to clear them, but nothing's happened in that sense.
So no singing, no footsteps upstairs, no running around, nothing's been completely quiet.
And have they managed to find out any information about Frederick?
Because he obviously wasn't a property owner here, he was just an employee, it's been very difficult to find anything. And of course we didn't have a surname, so unfortunately we've come against brick walls trying to find out who Frederick was.
Julia, John and Andy have helped all the staff at Beacon Radio to feel better about Normanhurst House.
People have said that they've not had any more sightings or experienced anything with the ghosts, and that's reassuring to know that they've noticed something, because there's only 3 of us that took part in the programme, but everyone else here has said it's a lot better place to work now.
It's good news for Beacon Radio. Staff who work there now feel free of any sinister hauntings. For them, the fear is over, and the late shift is no longer a terrifying ordeal. But for other people, uncertainty continues. That dark silhouette spotted out of the corner of the eye. How can anyone be certain what those shadows are? Haunted homes may not just be the product of pulp fiction and movies. Perhaps tonight's evidence suggests that someone in your town, maybe even your neighbours, have unwanted guests. If you haven't lived in a haunted home yet, maybe one night you will. Sleep well.